Bryan from Fantasy Labs. So I'm doing this video actually for the second time. I just recorded it like 5 minutes ago and realized that my microphone wasn't completely plugged in. So it was an entire video of no sound, but a screenshot of my computer. So obviously that did no one good. So I'm redoing it right now, so feel free to make fun of me. So anyway, this video is going to become a video called Lunch Lines that I'm going to do every day around probably around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We're trying to get our Twitch account set up for Fantasy Lab. So probably starting tomorrow, we're going to do it on that medium, but didn't get that set up today, or at least we're just kind of pending some stuff. So I wanted to at least get you guys the information. So I'm just going to do it this way and get it out to you guys, and hopefully you guys find it useful, and we'll tune in for kind of the weekday videos that I do on Twitch. So we'll run through this. So I'm pretty much the videos are going to be, I'm going to go over the lines for the day, any sort of movement, and some interesting things, as well as the news. Obviously, if I'm doing the news at 1 o'clock, some things are going to change. But as you know, I hope you're already following the Fantasy Labs NBA Twitter account, because that is the best way to stay up to date. Justin monitors that all day and all night. So obviously he is on it and will tweet everything out ASAP. So let's get to it. So Cavs and 76ers, this game is super low over under. So I'm probably going to fade most of it, especially on the 76ers side, because their implied points are crazy low. So we said on the podcast last night, Kevin Love is still a great play, super underpriced. So he's fine in cash or GPP. And that's kind of it for this game for me, especially as we're kind of just finding the true value. It was announced that Robert Covington, and Nick Stauskas were going to play and start, which is interesting. I'll give you my thoughts on that as I get to the news, but I don't think that changes a lot for me, and I'll tell you why in a second. Next game is Bucks at Nets. This is a low over under, even though it's going to be kind of close as Vegas. Bucks are only a point favorite, but not a whole lot of points. I think Monroe's still fine. He's probably underpriced. He has a large market share of their fantasy points, so I think that's fine. But that's probably about it. Jabari is coming back, but I don't think that affects a whole lot, and I'll get to that in 1 second again. Carter Williams, I think, is a fine play. Giannis is a fine play in tournaments, but I'm probably looking elsewhere in cash. Spurs Knicks is interesting. We're getting into finally a little bit higher. We're over 200, but Spurs are always interesting on a back-to-back, especially against a bad team. Who knows what Pop's going to do, whether he's going to actually try, or, if things aren't going his way, whether they could just, fold it in and go back to Texas. So this game worries me a little bit. Kawhi is always an interesting GPP option. Marcus is probably going to be over or under-owned, rather, because of his struggles and the adaptation to the offense. So that's interesting. Knicks, there's some cheap guys, but again, this is probably GPP only. Thunder Rockets is where we finally starting to get into cash guys. Westbrook is probably one of the best cash options. He's expensive, but he's worth it. Over-under is hugely high. It's 215.5. The spread was actually started at Thunder 2-point favorites, and it's moved to 4.5. It's still probably a little low. I think that'll probably move a little bit more probably in the next hour or so. But yeah, so a lot of points here from the Thunder. So Westbrook and Durant are obviously great options. And the Rockets are fine too. Harden's been struggling, but he's always a GPP option. Dwight's back, so that probably takes Clint Capella out. But, they have some options as far as it's kind of those fringe guys if you just kind of need to fill it in. Blazers Wolves is actually really interesting to me. It's not super high at 4.5, but there's some interesting plays. I think Karl Anthony Towns is a kind of a cash must play at center for me. McCollum is still underpriced. Amino is another no-brainer cash for me at small forward. I think Lillard's fine. I'd rather pay up for Westbrook, but I think he's okay. Rubio is kind of an elite GPP play. He is not cash for me, but he's a guy who's pretty volatile and can go for 13, 14 assists in a game. So that's kind of what I'm looking for in GPP. So he's going to make his way into a couple of those lineups. Grizzlies and Warriors going on is kind of a little lower under than we would expect for a Warriors team, but That's a lot has to do with the Grizzlies' pace, which is kind of why it takes me out of cash consideration for a lot of these guys. Steph and Westbrook are at similar price points, but because of the over/under and because the Grizzlies just like to slow things down to a very slow pace, I'm rather go Westbrook over Steph. I think some of these other guys are fine. GPP options, Clay's fine, Randolph are fine. They're fine GPP options, but for me, I'd rather kind of find my cash games options in up here with Westbrook and some of these other guys. Last game is Suns at Clippers. We're back to a high over under, so I think there's some cash options. Blake's fine. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, even though it's kind of a high over under. The Suns can kind of keep it close. I think Brandon Knight's probably pretty underpriced. He's at 6,600, I believe, and so that's just a little bit above Jarrett Jack at 6K, and that's kind of like the bottom tier of starting point guards for tonight. So I'm definitely fine. Bledsoe is kind of the premier shooting guard option if you want to fade Harden, which I think I do. So those are always good plays. DeAndre, Chris, Blake, they're always fine. So those are my thoughts on that. Let's kind of move on to this. I do want to show you real quick just to show you how you guys would do this. So if you go to the player ratings or whatever, or the player models, you just pull up a player's card. If you click on their team, it'll actually pull up their Vegas lines for that game, so you can see where it opened, where it's live, and as of course the spread, the percentage of bets, and it tracks it all throughout the last couple of days since the lines open, so you can see the movement and how that affects things. So I think that's really useful. So let's go to the news real quick and kind of hit on the big ones. So these are for Tuesday. Aaron Aflalo was ruled out this for tonight, but we didn't think he was going to play anyway, so that doesn't really affect things for me. Obviously the big ones, like I said, Covington and Stauskas are going to play and start. They said Stauskas was going to get as many minutes as he can handle, but this is just kind of a really bad matchup for them. The Cavs are good. They can defend the rim well, and the 76ers are just not good, and they're it's probably a really just bad spot with the Vegas line and everything. So I don't know. I would say that they're fine for a GPP option. I think Cannon might be okay. I'm fine. He's got a lot of minutes, but pretty much for me, I'm going to stay away from the 76ers. I just don't think there's a lot of value to it. They're obviously cheap, but I don't think there's a super high floor or a super high ceiling. So I'm kind of probably going to stay away. Jabari is the biggest news. That he was cleared to play. And I don't think it really changes much. I don't think it changes much for Monroe. I think his minutes are probably going to mean less minutes for some of these lower guys, like Justin said, for O'Brien and Copeland. So I don't think it really takes minutes away from the guys that we were interested in anyway. I think eventually Jabari's presence is going to help Monroe because it's going to space the floor, especially if Kidd plays him at that 4 spot alongside Monroe. Is going to give him some more space in the paint. So I think in the long run, it's going to be fine. For tonight, I don't think this news really affects a whole lot. And then finally, Bogut is ruled out. We thought he was going to be ruled out, and indeed he is, which means that Ezeli is a very strong cash game play and tournament option, like Justin said. Completely agree. I'm fine with going Ezeli and Towns, kind of double center matchup if you're playing on DraftKings and you can fit one into your flex. So those are my thoughts. Again, follow along Fantasy Labs NBA on Twitter, and make sure you follow along the news as lineup lock approaches and as the night goes, because obviously on DraftKings you can switch out if something happens. So those are my thoughts, and thanks for watching, and good luck tonight. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.